Alright, hi everybody. I'm going to do a short review of the Nock To It release by Carter, or Nock on Archery, the John Dudley release special edition. The one that I have here in front of me is the refresh that they did, I believe, at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. They've come out with two newer versions. Basically, it's the exact same release as I have here, but as of today's date, it's February 21st, 2022. They have the new green version, which has black, basically anodizing on the release, as opposed to the polished silver that they had before. And then they came out with an all new, all gold Nock To It, so that's brand new for this year. Basically, those are the only differences. Other than that, it's the exact same release as the lanyard hole and all that. So, but this is the packaging that it would have come in as of the 2020 version. I believe the versions before that came in the traditional Carter clear packaging, basically like the rest of their releases, but this is the specific packaging for the knock-on version. So when you open it up, you're greeted with the release in this specifically cut out foam. I got this secondhand, so I wasn't the original owner of the release, so I don't exactly know how the lanyard is put in there. That's the best way that I could figure out that it goes back in without messing any of the foam up. But it does come with a lanyard. I don't use it just because I've practiced enough with a handheld for the last couple of years where I don't necessarily need it. It's always a good idea to have it on if you are a little bit uncomfortable with it. And with this release, it's nice for tree stand hunting. You can just clip it onto your D-loop and leave it there, so you don't have to worry about dropping it or losing it. If we were to go elk hunting out west, or any type of western hunting, mule deer hunting, then I might put the lanyard on, just because it would be a little bit more secure, and I wouldn't be leaving it on my D-loop because there'd be a possibility for it to fall off. But anyway, to get into the specifics of the release and the review of the release, not the lanyard, this is what we have here. So you can pull out the release, and this is basically what you will be getting from at least 2020 and newer, until they come out with any new design. Now, the only difference that you can see right off the bat is these black felt pieces that you see here. That I added on after I got the release. You don't have to have that. It actually comes, basically like this. Green anodized all the way through. The reason that I added these on here is just because when I shot in the summertime, so tack, 3D courses, just shooting in the yard, I noticed that the release was getting a little slippery in my hand, and I wasn't able to get the same positioning every time. So what I did to try and alleviate that is I put these black felt pieces on. Now, you can get this at any type of hobby store, hardware store, Amazon, anything like that. I cut it to shape and put it on there, and it works great. It hasn't rolled up, no stickiness, and I recommend that to anybody, not just this release, but any release. If you pull up the foam, it's just that nice, dense foam that a lot of the Pelican cases come in. They've cut out the specific release. You have your instructions, and then you have the 3 Allen wrenches that come with it to make adjustments to the release. Open it up, clean it, whatever you want to do. So that's pretty much it as far as the packaging. But when you look back at the release, like I said before, this is the version as of 2020 and newer. The releases that you would buy right from the Nock-On website now, the difference that you would see with the green release is this, the cocking mechanism, and then the actual neck of the thumb trigger is black. So these are, I don't know if they are just blued with some cold aluminum bluing, or if they are like hardened oil. You know how a lot of metalsmiths, basically they harden pieces by quenching them in oil and all that type of stuff. So I'm not exactly sure what they've done to make them black, but that's basically the difference. Other than that, it's the exact same release, exact same etching, same name, same size, everything. The only one that's a different size is the Nock To It Mini, but obviously that's a different release altogether. The difference between any release that is between, I want to say 2018 to end of 2019, those releases have a Allen head screw that would go through the neck of the thumb post right here. That was what adjusted the trigger travel, They've gotten rid of that as of 2020. Now, obviously, you can see that there is no longer an Allen head screw that goes through there. All of the adjustments are done through this Allen head port right here. What they're calling that is the Controlled Engagement System, or CES. So they've upgraded the trigger sear, and then they've also upgraded the adjustability for the trigger. So before, what you could do is adjust the tension of the locking mechanism if you wanted it to be hotter or colder, and then you could adjust the travel of the trigger. So if you wanted it to have a little bit more sponginess before it went off, or if you wanted it to be more crisp. Now that's all done through one port right here. To make it colder or a little bit harder to pull, a little bit softer, not as hot, you'd turn it clockwise or to the right. If you want it to be more hot, more crisp, fire more quickly, more touchy, essentially, you would back it out to the left or counterclockwise. I think I have mine set a little bit in the middle. If anything, it's going to be a little bit more hot. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's very touchy. Not a lot of pressure. It's not something that you can slap or bump. It's not going to go off, so it's not quite that hot, but it does not take a lot of pressure to make the release go off. So that's kind of what I like. The reason I have it set to that, two reasons. One, personal preference, and two, the first time I ever used one of these releases, I was borrowing a friend's, and he had it set to his preference, which was, I don't know, I want to say at least 1 or 2 clicks more sensitive than what I have mine here, and I was not used to it. It's completely my fault. I was drawing back, I accidentally hit the thumb release, and the arrow went off, the bow went off. Halfway through my draw cycle, dropped my bow, broke a couple pieces on the bow. The release was fine, thankfully I didn't let go of that, so that was the most important part to that blunder, is I did not ruin the release of my buddies, and it was just my idiocy that I had to work through with the bow. But anyway, obviously you have the Allen head screws right here where you can take the release apart. I would recommend not doing that, just because Carter has a pretty good warranty, and if you buy this directly from the website, you should be able to send it into Carter if you have any issues. It gets grimy, dirt, if it has any manufacturing defects, anything like that, you should be able to send it into Carter. I'm not 100% sure if they have a transferable warranty. I haven't looked into it yet. I haven't had any issues. That's one of the good things about Carter, is you typically don't have issues, but like most things in the world, you mass produce something, eventually you're going to get one that is going to have something that may get messed up. Things happen. There are variances in machines, no matter how tight the tolerances are. Things happen. It's an imperfect world. Able to work with you on that one. Now, as far, like I said, as the transferable warranty, I'm not 100% sure. I feel like I've read somewhere that they are transferable, and then I've also read somewhere, and just common sense, most places don't transfer the warranties if you're not the original owner, because typically they want to see purchase receipts, date of the original sale, and all that, because if you buy it secondhand, the original owner could have made some adjustments inside the release that you don't know about, and then when you send it in, it's something that they can't fix. So but typically for the release, really the only maintenance that you have to do is just cleaning it out every once in a while. John Dudley has a pretty good video on how to do that. I think what he does just rudimentarily is he takes a high pressured air can, or if you have an air compressor with one of those attachments that can blow compressed air, he just blows out the dirt here around the sear, then he blows it out down here by the locking mechanism and the thumb head, and then drops a little bit of lubricating oil. I don't really know if it matters what kind of oil. I would recommend something like gun oil. That way it doesn't really interact with the metal too much, other than just lubricating it. Those are pretty safe. And what he does is he takes the high pressured air again and just blows it in each one of the crevices to try and shoot that lubricating oil throughout the release, and that pretty much seems to clean anything up that you could possibly want to fix at home. Like I said, anything further than that you would need to have maintenance done on, you would want to send it into Carter. Other than that, I think the only thing that I skipped over as far as adjustments would be the actual barrel itself. I believe when the release comes, it comes specifically like this. Now, fortunately, with the barrel extended all the way out, I don't know if you can see, maybe it's better here. The hole on the barrel is on one side, and then as you swivel it around, it'll get closer to the release and then farther away. This is about as far away as you can get it. Maybe a millimeter or two one way or the other may make it longer. But that's really the only adjustment that you have as far as the thumb barrel. So it's going to be within, you know, a couple centimeters as far as adjustment. Some people like it really close to the release where it's almost touching it and your hand is very closed off, or they have it buried back here in the thumb like I do, or if you have it more up front where it's, you know, closer to the edge of your thumb, more like this. You know, that is basically the adjustments you have. So overall, it's a very good release. It has never failed me as far as function. I've harvested a couple deer with it now, taken it to a tack and a couple 3D shoots, and I absolutely love it. If I had any complaints, there are going to be two. Both are going to be just anecdotal, my personal preference. It's not anything that I think a lot of people are going to run into. Is I originally bought it because I thought the 2-finger style release was going to be better as far as repeatability and being able to control the release. As far as you know, having the least amount of variance in the release in your shot process, I think it hits that right on the head. But for me personally, I like having 3 fingers on a release. I just think it gives me a little bit more control. Now, I know that's basically the selling point with this release is 2 fingers. That's the whole point of John Dudley making the release like this. Carter has releases with 3 fingers. I think it's the first choice and the wise choice. Are the actual Carter made versions of this that aren't the knock-on versions. I would look into those if you want a 3-finger. It's basically the exact same release. It's just different anodizing, different name, but essentially it is the same release other than that. That's really my only personal preference, is I wish that it was 3 fingers. You know, other than that, it works pretty good. And then the other one that I would run into is just a bit of a pain to put this release on a D-loop. And that could come down to just how I'm doing it personally, practicing, you know, just getting it on. I have found every once in a while that when I would put the string through the, when I go to attach the release to the string, I would get it on there, it would look like it was all the way through, and I would go to press the locking mechanism and it wouldn't lock. So if you can see that, if I hold my fingernail and hold the actual latch open, oh, now it just did it. So if I hold it towards the other end, well, now how did I do that? Well, I guess I'm not going to be able to do it now, but there has been times, just trust me, when I have had the string through the release, and if I don't have it angled just right where it's perfectly parallel between here, I'm not able to close the release. It basically gets stuck just like that. Now I'm pressing the locking mechanism all the way closed. So I don't know if that's just something with this release, if that's with all the releases, if that's just me being an idiot and not putting it on correctly. I'm not sure. You know, just angling a little bit differently, adjusting it, and it works perfectly every time after that. So I'm pretty sure it's just something that I have to get more proficient with. Other than that, great release. Really haven't read any negatives on the release on websites, other YouTube videos, anything like that. Really the only other negative that I have come across, if you can even say it's a negative, is this green anodizing has been known to change colors and wear off just due to the oil of the skin, which that's going to happen with any release that you have that's colored. That's not, you know, specific to Carter, not specific to Nock on, anything like that. You know, if you shoot firearms or work with metal or any type of metal with coloring that is touched by the oils of the skin or just the elements anyway, they're going to change colors. You know? And even aluminum like this, it's going to change some colors. But thankfully, this one hasn't changed at all. I don't know if that's just because I haven't used it enough, or I've just been thankful enough to take care of it well enough to where it hasn't changed colors. But that's pretty much it. That's the release. I highly recommend it if you want in the market for getting one. I think I'm going to upgrade and get a hinge style release this year so I can shoot both. I don't think I'm going to hunt with one, just because this release is quite nice for hunting, and I like the ability to be able to control the shot a little bit more with the trigger. I know that may be kind of contradictory to the whole surprise shot and target panic, buck fever, that type of thing. I've definitely suffered from that, like everybody will at one point or has at one point, but just being able to control that a little bit better for me personally, I think is important. There's definitely been times where I've been aiming on a deer and then they move 5 to 10 yards in a matter of seconds. It's just aiming at a different spot. But we'll find out. All right, well, feel free to comment, like, subscribe. We'll be coming out with a little bit more videos here, and then we'll have definitely more reviews on equipment that we have in the future. All right, thanks guys, talk to you later.